Unless you've been living under a rock, then you're probably aware that we're in a little bit of a shifting market. And I think the question on everyone's mind from a real estate perspective is, when is the Toronto housing market going to crash? So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on this topic, then I hope you'll stay tuned and keep watching to the end. Before we get started, I'm Stephanie Nause with the Homeplicity Realty Group here at Keller Williams, and I'm passionate about helping our clients build and develop wealth through real estate. If you're interested in tips on buying a home, selling a home, or investing in Toronto real estate, I hope you'll consider subscribing to our channel. And if you like this kind of content, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? When is the market going to crash, or has it already started? Go ahead and comment down below. I think the first thing to note is that, one, there are actual economists that don't know how to answer this question, so don't come for me. This is just kind of my thoughts on some research that I've done and just my experience in being out in the market and selling real estate and what I've seen happen in the past over my career of 15 years. The first thing to note is that these sort of market corrections tend to follow a certain pattern. There's a certain flow that seems to happen that's an indicator that, yep, this is probably happening. So the first thing that we start to see is the volume of transactions goes down. The number of sales that's happening month over month, year over year, that starts to decrease. And then the second thing is the listing inventory increases. So what's been really fueling prices in the last few years is that there's not enough inventory for the buyers, so supply and demand. As that listing inventory increases, you guessed it, prices will start to decrease. And again, that's just basic supply and demand. And then this decrease in price is also being amplified right now by the interest rate increases, because it's just less people that are able to buy homes. There's less buyers in the market, so we're starting to see prices fluctuate. Real estate recessions will typically start between 18 and 36 months before an economic recession. And a good example of this was in 2005 in the US market. About 2.5 years before the 2008 subprime mortgage meltdown, major recession in the States, we started to see prices retract. If we take a look at our market here in the central GTA, we noticed that prices started to recede in February, and then the rest of Ontario in around April. So that's showing some indicators that there's potentially even an economic recession looming ahead in the future. There are a few different indicators that we look at for economic recessions versus real estate recessions. So for an economic recession, the things that you're going to look at would be the unemployment rate, GDP, interest rates, and then also inflation. And then for a real estate recession, the indicators that you want to be taking a look at would be days on market, monthly listing inventory, the amount of months of inventory that's on the market, the percentage of list to sold ratio, what the property is listed for versus what it actually sells for, and then the sales volume month over month and year over year. So basically what we discussed earlier in the video. Typically when we look at economic recessions, unemployment is a good indicator, and most recessions will typically follow a period of very low unemployment, similar to what we're seeing right now. And then for GDP, people are still buying a lot of stuff, and the supply chain issues have really caused prices to increase over the last little bit. I don't know if you've tried to buy a car recently. I just had to get a new car and I was horrified by the price and just like the lack of inventory. Same for when I bought windows for my house recently. People are still buying stuff, and because of the supply issues, there's a lot of price gouging, and this is something that causes inflation. There are reports that the inflation is actually much higher than what the government's been reporting. And there's a lot of worldwide protesting about this and just how the government has completely lost control of inflation and has caught the central bank attention, and hello, interest rate increase, right? That's why we're seeing the rates start to rise, because the central bank is really trying to kill or cool down, slow, however dramatic you want to be, our real estate market and car sales, durable goods, etc., all of those types of things. I think the next question is, how high do interest rates actually have to go for that impact of killing or cooling down the real estate market? If rates get to 5.5%, is that going to be enough to do it? Probably not. So that's why there's a lot of speculation that we could see rates get up to as high as 7 or even 9%. When I first started selling real estate back in 2007, we definitely saw interest rates around that 7% mark. Could it get there? I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think the other thing to note is sort of why we're seeing prices decrease with the interest rate increase. If you take a look at a household, for example, that has a combined income of $95,000, right now with the current rates, they're going to qualify for about $415,000. A few months back, they would have qualified for $500,000. That represents about a 20% decrease in their borrowing power, and that's why we're seeing the prices come down, because there's not as many buyers that are qualifying for those higher numbers, and as a result, we're seeing prices drop in correlation to the rate increases. I think that we can expect more decreases in price, especially if there is another rate increase. There's speculation that that will happen and roll out in September. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I mean, more than likely, I think the thing to consider is that there comes a tipping point where you will actually pay more money for a more affordable property with a higher interest rate. So I'll give you an example just because that's how my brain works. The thing to keep in mind is that affordability equals the cost to purchase the home plus the cost to carry the mortgage. So an example of that is if you would actually pay less money to the bank if you had a 3% interest rate with an $800,000 mortgage versus having an 8% interest rate and a $560,000 mortgage. So if you don't believe me, punch that into a mortgage calculator and assuming a 25-year amortization, that's how that plays out. So you can't time the market. Just if you don't believe me on this, just ask the buyers who bought in January and February, right? It's impossible. Real estate really should be a long-term hold. And should you buy right now? That's the question on everyone's mind. People are asking that all the time. A lot of our clients, and they're sort of sitting on the sidelines. I think the answer to that question is it depends. It depends on your situation. It depends on what your long-term goals are for the property, how long you're planning to hold it. It depends on how comfortable you are with your job security and just your overall future. So if there's one thing I know, it's that real estate is a very good investment long-term. Can't day trade real estate, as they say in our industry. So that is my take on the market and where it's going and potentially what we could see. I hope that you enjoyed this content. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in having some conversations about what it would look like for you to be purchasing in a looming recession, or just would like some access or interested in receiving a list of properties, feel free to DM me. Go ahead and follow us at Homeplicity Realty on Instagram and Facebook. And if you love looking at beautiful real estate, then I hope you'll go over to our website at Homeplicity Realty and check out some of our gorgeous featured listings. And until next time, bye for now. Have a great day.